It was in December last year that we had ridden Piaggio's new maxi scooter, the Aprilia SXR 160. It had impressed us with a lot of its qualities, except for one, its pricing. At Rs 1.27 lakh ex-showroom, it is quite expensive, but that's the case with all Piaggio scooters in India. But now, the company has introduced its smaller version, the SXR 125, which obviously gets a smaller displacement engine, but it gets identical styling, nearly the same features and similar hardware. But most importantly, it is around 11,000 cheaper than the larger SXR 160. Now the main question here is, if you are already spending over a lakh rupees, shouldn't you spend around 11,000 more and get the more powerful SXR 160? And if you are a fan of maxi styling but want something more affordable, doesn't the Suzuki Burgman Street 125 make more sense? Let's find out the answer to these questions in this video as we spend some time with the SXR 125. As I told you, the design of the SXR 125 is identical to its 160cc iteration, and we are glad for that. I mean, the flamboyance that it carries is actually difficult to match by any other scooter in the market. So Piaggio likes to call this design cross maxi, which is a beautiful blend of sporty and maxi bodywork. The front fascia of the SXR 125 is heavily inspired by Aprilia's Supersport, the RS 660. It sports a huge front apron that houses a wide and sleek full LED headlamp with DRLs and turn indicators. Typical of a maxi scooter, it also gets a tall windscreen and a long tail section with a radical looking LED tail lamp and a sturdy grab rail. The SXR 125 is decently loaded with modern features. One of the highlights is the large LCD dash that shows a lot of data in a clean layout, and it starts up with a dramatic animation. The list of information on offer includes speedometer, tachometer, odometer, 2 trip meters, fuel gauge, fuel range, real-time fuel efficiency, a temperature indicator and a clock. Although it is loaded with data, the low placement of the unit makes it difficult to read when you are wearing a full face helmet. The display can also be accompanied by a Bluetooth connectivity module as an optional accessory, but it doesn't give access to navigation or message and call notification. Piaggio has not only bestowed it with fancy bits, but there are some practical features as well. On the front, there's a luggage hook and a lockable glove box which opens up by pressing in the key. There are two storage compartments here. One on the left side which has smaller storage capacity, but it has a USB charger. On the right side, there's a larger space. And at the rear, you get an under-seat storage space of 21 liters, which is quite impressive. But you can't really gobble up a full face helmet here, but a half face helmet should easily fit in. And to light things up in dark, there's a boot lamp as well. The big size maxi scooters that are available in the international markets, they are actually comfortable enough to be ridden for long distances on the highway. But that's not the case with the SXR 125, as it feels just like any other conventional scooter when you hop on it. The handlebar is placed pretty close to the rider, and the footrest provision is quite cramped, and it doesn't have dual footrest provision like that in the Suzuki Burgman Street 125. As for the seat, the cushioning is pretty firm, but that is acceptable. What is strange is the design of the seat. If you sit too much at the back, you slide ahead. If you slide too much ahead, you will be brushing your knees against the front panel. Coming to the aspect which is different from the SXR 160 is the engine. This one is powered by a 124.45cc 3-valve engine that produces 9.38 bhp of power and 9.2 Newton meters of peak torque. This is essentially the same unit that is employed in the sportier SR 125, but the tuning is slightly different depending on the weight. Before I tell you how this engine performs, let me start it up so that you can listen to its mechanical exhaust note that is typical of an Aprilia. Off the line, the SXR 125 feels a bit lethargic but starts getting lively as the speeds rise up. Roll-on acceleration is quick enough to pull off overtakes in traffic. Although it doesn't surprise you at any point, the engine feels adept to be enjoyed in the city. As it was expected, it feels a bit sluggish as compared to its 160cc sibling, but the difference isn't substantial.
As I mentioned in the beginning, it gets the same hardware as the bigger SXR 160. So it rides on 12-inch alloy wheels at both ends, which are shod with 120/70 section tires. And the braking, the suspension setup are all the same. But what's different is that this gets combi braking system, unlike the bigger 160 that gets ABS.
Aprilia scooters never disappoint on the handling front, and the SXR 125 is no different. It responds to your steering inputs with utmost proficiency and changes directions swiftly. It is really fun to flick around in the city. May it be taking tight turns or attacking long sweeping corners, the SXR takes it all in its stride with great agility. One of the reasons for the SXR's precise handling is its stiff suspension setup, which takes a toll on its ride quality to some extent. The damping feels quite firm on almost all kinds of undulations, but thankfully it never felt rigid enough to really hurt my back. As quick it is in changing directions, it drops anchor equally strongly. While the front has tremendous bite, the rear drum takes a bit of squeezing the lever. That said, the combined braking setup works flawlessly by preventing the rear wheel from locking up for the most part.
The Aprilia SXR 125 feels quite premium, exotic and special. Well, that's the case with most of the Piaggio products. But this one brings practicality into the mix with some useful features. It has a potent engine and great handling dynamics as well. But where it could do better is in terms of ride quality, which could be slightly plusher. The seat can be differently designed. There could be Bluetooth connectivity as standard and an external fuel filler cap as well. Now, all things said and done, the SXR 125 actually makes more sense than the 160 because of its cheaper price tag. Well, we agree there's a slight difference in performance, but that is not so much that this one can be deleted from the equation. The SXR 125 too feels adequately peppy in the city. Now, if you are keen on buying a maxi-style scooter that is much more affordable and easier to live with, we can't forget that the Suzuki Burgman Street 125 is around 35,000 cheaper than this.